Hello everyone, my name is Bradley Chesser and I'd like to share my story with you today. I grew up in a small town called Clarksville, Arkansas. Spent a lot of time with my grandmother and my grandfather through the summer times and on weekends. We did a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing through the winters and summers. A lot of memories catching a lot of big flatheads with my grandma and grandpa and my uncles and cousins. Did a lot of hunting, killed a lot of big bucks, a lot of does. Had fun doing that with them. A lot of good memories hunting and fishing. But still yet, it seemed like something was always missing in my life. I most definitely probably think that was my father figure. My biological father gave up full rights to me whenever I was about 3.5, maybe 4 years old. That's kind of when my grandfather stepped up and took the role model of father in my life. I felt like this led to a lack of structure and accountability in my life. So I started smoking cigarettes, slipping around smoking cigarettes when I was about 7 years old. Started slipping around smoking weed when I was about 10 years old, which led me into over-the-counter cough and cold medicine, which eventually led me to getting 1 night in jail at the age of 16. The following day, my grandmother and grandfather got me out, bonded me out. The following day, I ended up getting in trouble again. Left with my mother, going back to Clarksville, and got caught less than 30 miles from where I got thrown in jail the first time. So this in turn led me to moving on to an opioid addiction. I found a doctor. This doctor was nothing but a pill-pushing doctor. You take him a certain amount of money and he would supply you with anything. So for about 1.5 years, I was seeing this doctor and got pretty hooked to narcotics. And once the doctor started getting investigated and they started cracking down on the opioid use, and he ended up fleeing and left everybody that he was seeing pretty well much broken and addicted to narcotics. And once he was gone, I turned to the street to start buying my narcotics. So things really started falling apart for me in 2011. I found out my grandpa had cancer coming out of boot camp. Ended up catching a new felony charge for residential burglary in 2011. Just as soon as I found out my grandfather had cancer, I started using the needle. I was really just trying to go be with Grandpa where he was going. So my grandpa passed away on December 16th of 2011. So I buried my grandfather, turned myself in at 5 o'clock that afternoon. And December 22nd of 2011, my youngest son was born. So this was the start of an 8-year prison sentence. Through this time, my life was very chaotic. I was pretty broken. Didn't care really what went on in my life. So in 2019, really chaotic year of my life. I was trying to get myself back on track, moved out of town. I ended up buying a truck from a gentleman and I owed him $300 on the truck. Somehow he snuck in behind me where I worked at and ended up taking the truck back from me without a chance to pay him the $300 that I owed on the truck. This led me back into full-blown addiction, which in turn led me to walking the streets, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. This in part led me to a church where there was a very, very strong message that was being preached that night, which led me to repentance. How it happened, I don't know. I felt a change in my life that night. I felt a cleansing go on in my life. That was going to start a change in my life that I never thought possible. So even after repentance, my addiction was still very strong. So in 2020, I found myself back in prison in solitary confinement. I realized that I'd probably hit the lowest of lows. If you don't know anything about solitary confinement is a 24-hour lockdown. The only interaction you have with people is when a guard brings you your food. I lost my mother in the 16 months, found out my grandmother was sick in the 16 months that I was in there. I mean, it was the lowest of the lows. Like, I really, besides the Lord being there protecting me and telling me that it was all right, I could really care less. I was ready to die. The whole time, the one thing that I could think about was the moment at church, the repentance, and at my kitchen table when the Lord saved my life. Those two things rang true in my heart and in my mind the whole time I was there. A counselor come and asked me if I would read anything, and I told her, yes, ma'am. I said, if you would be more than kind enough to get me a Bible, I said I would like to read a Bible. Started studying it, started trying to figure out what kind of calling that the Lord had on my life. I'd probably hit my rock bottom, my lowest of lows, and I didn't have nowhere to turn, and so I turned to the Lord. So when I was released, I went to Phoenix House at Springdale, Arkansas. Started thinking about my grandpa and all the fishing that we used to do, so I ended up grabbing me a fishing pole, and I went to a little park called Murphy's Park and was doing a little bit of fishing around the pond. Little did I know that the Lord had City Church set up at the free food truck, sitting up under the canopy. And Miss Teresa, she come and asked me if I believed in the Lord, and we got to talking, and I got to share a little bit of my testimony with her, and which in turn led me to meet her husband the next day, Pastor Sam. And Pastor Sam has since been mentoring me. He introduced me to Pastor Chris, come to Pastor Chris's church. I've since been being discipled by Pastor Chris and Pastor Sam, going to small groups, attending church on Wednesday nights as well. I've also started, me and Pastor Sam have started our own group at Phoenix House, where I am trying to be a light to those individuals there that are coming out of prison, trying to find their way in life. The Lord has just blessed me in so many ways since I've decided to give my life to Him and to follow Him. Things that I've never thought that I would have been: tithing my full 10% to the Lord, offerings, helping others, loving neighbors. I'm just trying to be used as a vessel for the Lord in a lost and dark world. So the moral of my story is that each and every one of you belong. The Lord loves you just as you are. He accepts you just as you are. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be connected in a church, growing, serving the Lord, I would have told you was crazy. It takes me back to when the night I was in church. The gentleman, he took a $20 bill and he wadded the $20 bill up. He threw it on the ground and he picked it up and he said, now who would still take this $20 bill? And everybody said they would. So he threw it down, he stomped on it, he picked it up, he spit on it. He asked the whole congregation, he said, who'd still want this $20 bill? Everybody said they would. And I felt the Lord really talking to me through that, because no matter what situation you're in, how lost, how broke, the Lord can fix you, and He still loves you and He still wants you, no matter how lost or broke you are. So I would just say, let the Lord into your life, ask Him to come into your life and lead you and guide you, and let Him show you the miracles and the work that He can do.